He was inside the backyard in a fenced-off area. What was the cause for an officer to shoot and kill my dog? I just arrived at my house. There's Utah Animal Control. And the officers involved in killing my dog. Now I want to know who shot my dog and what the probable cause was to trespass on private property and kill my animal. Which officer shot my dog, please?
He's not here.
He left?
He's not here.
Okay, it's probably a good thing.
Upfront and candid, I don't consider myself a pet owner. I consider myself fortunate to have a pair of furry kids in my family. 2 one-year-olds that brighten our lives, look to us for food and shelter, and love us no matter what, just like children. I protect them as I would my own biological kids. So this is an issue that has a personal edge and one that disturbs on so many levels. The government keeps no statistics, but some animal abuse activists estimate a pet is killed by law enforcement every 98 minutes in America. This past June, in what you just saw, police in Utah shot a family dog while searching for a lost boy. The dog was shot and killed by police while the pet was in his fenced-in backyard. The child was later found sleeping in his home. Let's welcome to MidPoint, attorney and recognized authority on animal and dangerous dog law, Richard Rosenthal joins us today. Richard, thanks so much for being here.
Glad to be here, Ed.
Is the most disturbing thing is it took that instance to make national headlines, and if you search this on any of the search engines, you will find it's happening in Pennsylvania, in Baltimore, in places across the country. This is not an isolated incident, and it's happening with more frequency.
What's even scarier, Ed, is that the police departments, rather than showing apologies or outrage, lie, create stories, and do nothing to discipline the police officers that do this.
Why are they being allowed to get away with this? Is this simply because they're only seeing it as no big deal, it's just an animal and we're doing our job?
It's even worse than we're doing our job. It's we don't care. Yes, they see it just as an animal, just as a piece of property. One of the scariest things is that when they execute warrants, most police departments have no procedure in place and no plans to deal with the possibility of dogs being present other than to kill them.
Richard, let me bring up another side of this, because as a dog owner, I have seen way too many people of all ages, of all social strata, who have dogs and they make them their own personal little guardians, if you will. They turn them nasty. They make them dogs that bite. They make them dogs that attack. It is almost many times an extension of their macho that they have to have these kind of dogs. Is it not fair to say that there are not only police officers, and I'm not going to defend them here, but those who quite frankly are confronted by these animals that are turned evil and nasty by human beings, that they simply are afraid at this time, they don't know what they're dealing with?
Yes, there are. It very much is an issue. However, when the police officer or the person enters into private property and then kills the dog because the dog is protecting his property, there's something wrong with it. If you look at the majority of dangerous dog laws throughout the country, almost all of them have an exception to the dog biting a trespasser or protecting his owner or his property. Our law does recognize that a dog has a right to be safe and to be secure in his property. When a police officer, or anyone for that matter, trespasses, to then suggest that they're justified in killing the dog because the dog was not all warm and cuddly and friendly really stretches the point.
I want to also bring into this a story from Baltimore. A police officer, a 7-year-old Chinese Shar-Pei, went missing from her home. The same day, officers responded to a call that a dog had bitten a woman. The dog was named Nayla. Police restrained her using a pole around her neck. While she was restrained, the officer, Jeffrey Bulger, cut the dog's throat with a knife while the dog was being held and while the dog was being subdued. The officer was suspended without pay, arrested, and charged. Why is this not happening more? Because, Richard, this seems like not only a violation of your personal space, but your civil rights.
It is most definitely a violation of your civil rights. It also is a violation of the animal abuse laws in virtually every state. The problem is that we expect the police to police themselves, and they don't.
What then can the animal owners do? The person sitting there watching us right now, their dogs are well behaved, they take care of them, and the one that we talked about in Utah was inside the owner's yard. What is it that the owners can do right now to protect them from really jackhammer cops who are out there with no other thought process than to shoot first, ask questions later?
As obscene as the thought sounds, they need to make sure their property is gated and locked. When I was much younger, there was a very different view of police. The police was someone you went to help you when there was a problem. You didn't fear the police. Nowadays, one needs to be afraid of the police, and it's a horrible, horrible way for this country to have become.
Will these law enforcement officials ever understand that to many people these are family? They're not just pets?
Only when more and more of the families that have been abused this way start suing and the courts start issuing large judgments against municipalities, when it is no longer economically feasible for the police department to bury their head and ignore the law, will the politicians start forcing them to enforce the law even against police officers.
Richard, we're all out of time, unfortunately, but I want to thank you for joining us. It is something that we will pay attention to from here on out. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
We want to point out, too, there are a number of online resources for people who have lost dogs at the hands of police officers. Dogs Killed by Police Officers lets people post information about their canine victims, about members of their families. This needs to stop. It's obscene and it's despicable. Coming up next, on to New York and the Steve Malzberg Show, right here on the Newsmax TV network.